I am back in Big Cypress National Preserve this morning. I'm starting this foggy day off at the Fire Prairie Trail. It's about 5 miles round trip. At the trailhead, I already found 3 new bird species, and every like 5-10 seconds you hear a bird flying overhead making a call. So nature out here is just insane. So the trail opens up into this wide open prairie, which makes sense because of the name. But once you get out here, the wildlife, I'm not hearing as much. You just hear crickets in the background, but this fog makes for an amazing photo setting and just really a nice added touch to this Florida weather. One good thing about being in a wide open area like this is it's very easy to spot birds and take pictures of them. I was able to get probably maybe my best bird picture ever in my career. I got Florida scrub jay, but I was still learning how to do photography at that point. These are really good. This is the eastern meadowlark. It's a new bird for me, and he was just an amazing sport. He was going in all kinds of different spots and just sitting there and letting me get great pictures of him. The thing about Florida is hiking for a scenic view is definitely not the state's strong suit. Some of the best trails in the state is really getting you up and close and personal to some really cool wildlife. When you get into some good views of the state is when you have like these open prairies, and I think are really nice and really signifies what Florida is about. Flatlands, open land, open sawgrass, palm trees, and that's just what I think the state is all about. Now, I only went about halfway down on this trail. I'm on my way back because you're pretty much just going to be getting the same prairie, and I'm really happy with the wildlife photography that I got and some of the landscape photography that I got. So wasn't really going to see much difference than what I was looking at. So going to head on back and do a couple things in this national preserve and start slowly making our way west through Collier County. I ended up stopping just at the Kirby roadside boardwalk, which was pretty damaged, so I continued west on 41 until I left the Big Cypress National Preserve and directly into the Fakahatchee Strand Preserve State Park. I just made it to Fakahatchee Strand Preserve State Park. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right. The first thing that we're doing in the park today is the Big Cypress Bend Boardwalk Trail, which is just under a mile and takes you right through the swamp and the surrounding landscape. This is the largest state park in Florida, protecting a strand of swamp in the far western reaches of the Everglades, protecting multiple habitats from swamps to prairies down to a coast on the Fakahatchee Bay, and it's the only place in the world where bald cypress trees and royal palms share the same forest canopy. Tons of wildlife call this park home, including once again the Florida panther and of course more gators. This is my 121st U.S. state park and my 31st in Florida. After the boardwalk trail, there was a viewpoint I was seeing on Google Maps that looked like an incredible spot for a sunset. It's in the northern section of the park, so I hopped in my car, drove the 16 miles through the Janes Memorial Scenic Drive, which was all dirt road by the way, until I made it to the East Main Tram Trailhead. Got to see quite a few alligators on the way, no surprise there. It's about 2 miles until the final viewpoint, so it's not going to take long. We got about 2 hours until sunset. I like when you drive through Florida and they got all the royal palms and all the other palm trees planted really, really nicely. And then here, out in the wild, they're just like every other plant here, just hidden within the forest. Well, this is definitely not an ideal spot for an alligator to be laying for a trail goer. It took me a while to get up to that. And I don't mind alligators, but I don't know, just about his position, this made me feel real weird, but we survived. This is the first time since I've been down here, which was like about a week, that I've actually had to do a little bit of bugs. Not too bad, but there is a few flying around my legs and get a random bite. But for the most part, when you come to the dry season, is another reason why Florida is best visited during the dry season, because you just don't get nearly as much bugs as what you would during the summer. Finally made it to the spot that I was looking for. After roughly 2 miles, there's a bunch of alligators down there. Didn't expect it to be connected to a house. I thought it was just like a deck, a boardwalk that took you out over into the pond, but it's literally connected to a whole house. So now we're gonna wait until the sun sets a little bit more, goes below that tree line, and then get this nice picture. Today I am starting my day off at the 10,000 Islands National Wildlife Refuge. Now this is the next park west as you're driving across southern Florida, just after Fakahatchee Strand Preserve State Park. Now I'm currently doing the only walkable trail in the park, which is called the Marsh Trail, just over 2 miles in length. It's got a lot of good birding activities, so I'm excited to check that out. And then afterwards, I'm planning on doing some kayaking through the refuge. This is my 13th National Wildlife Refuge that I have ever visited, and it's my 5th in Florida. It protects over 35,000 acres of 10,000 islands in southern Florida, which, despite the name, is only around 100 islands. The refuge includes both fresh and salt water, along with a large area of mangrove forest, and is an absolute haven of a feeding ground for birds, as I saw both white and brown pelicans, my first reddish egret, Rosetta spoonbills, a common gallinule, blue-winged teal, northern shoveler, and American avocets, along with a ton of herons and other egret species that I've seen a ton of before. There was huge flocks of birds here, which is common in Florida during the dry season because water is less accessible, leading to smaller feeding areas which are filled with hungry birds. Rain clouds were starting to roll in, and the forecast was showing some big storms coming in, so I hit the car and headed over to Naples for a bite to eat. Afterwards, I headed back where I came from to another protected area that is bordered to this National Wildlife Refuge called Collier Seminole State Park. Unfortunately, the rain was still continuing to come down. My original plan was to come kayak in the state park and then come back to the National Wildlife Refuge to kayak some more, which I already knew was going to be tight on schedule, and the rain pretty much confirmed that. The rain has finally let up after about an hour of downpouring. It's still a little bit cloudy, but the forecast is saying we're good, so we're going to go ahead and get the Isle paddleboard ready to go, get it inflated, and then start kayaking to Collier Seminole State Park. Collier Seminole State Park protects 6,430 acres of mangrove swamps, cypress swamps, salt marshes, mangrove river estuaries, and pine flatwoods in southwestern Florida. This is my 122nd U.S. state park and my 32nd in Florida. While there is hiking trails, this park is mostly underwater, and one trail that did interest me was actually closed, so only kayaking it is. This park even has an old dredge that was used to build the Top Miami Trail, which is the southernmost 284 miles of US 41 through the Everglades. It gets its name because the road ultimately connects Tampa and Miami.
Take my heart, don't break it. Love me to my bones. All this time I've wasted. You were right there all along. You and I stargazing, intertwining souls. We were never strangers. You were right there all along.
Well, tonight is a wrap from Goodland, Florida. Gonna head over to Chipotle for some dinner. Gonna head over to Planet Fitness to freshen up a little bit. And then tomorrow we're gonna start heading up to the northern parts of Collier County. The next day I spent most of my time regrouping and relaxing a little bit because I've spent the last 8 days doing stuff nonstop. I spent the day hanging out at Naples, which is the county seat and largest city of Collier County, with over 300,000 people calling the urban area home. The majority of this time I was relaxing at Delnor Wiggins Pass State Park, which is my 123rd in the country and 33rd in Florida. It's home to your classic white sand Gulf Coast beach, and honestly, that's about it. I like going to every state park, so this was just a great opportunity to kick my feet up on the beach and plan the conclusion of my trip. After spending much of the day here, I went over to Picayune Strand State Forest, which is my 5th Florida state forest I've been to. It protects 78,000 acres of cypress swamps, wet pine flatwoods, and wet prairies, along with a grid of closed roads because there was once plans of development through the area. I spent my time here going for an hour walk on the Sable Palm Trail just to get back out in the woods and from all the noise. After my little walk, I headed back over to Naples to watch sunset at the Naples Pier. This here was a great moment for me just to stop and reflect on my trip so far, which I believe is so important to do, especially when you are on full go every day. Today I'm going to begin my trek back east to the Atlantic coast side of Florida. But before I do that, I gotta make one last pit stop in a park that is unlike any other. The Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge. This 26,000 acre park, located in the upper segment of the Fakahatchee Strand of the Big Cypress Swamp, specifically protects a habitat of the Florida panther. The Florida panther is a critically threatened species, as its current habitat in South Florida is only 5% of what it used to be. And as of 2024, there are only around 200 of them left. There has been extreme measures to protect them, so there has been a slight improvement in their numbers, but continued Florida development for a state's population that continues to grow very fast is a huge challenge for the protection of this species. Its current range covers Everglades National Park, Big Cypress National Preserve, Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge, and the Picayune Strand State Forest, along with any other land they find within urban communities. This National Wildlife Refuge is my 14th that I visited in the country and my 6th in Florida. The only thing you can really do here is hike the 1.3 mile loop that covers a tiny portion of the park. Although the park is named after the Florida panther, it is very, very rare to see one, let alone with a camera and as a close encounter. Nevertheless, it's still worth a visit because its nature is so abundant here, with tons of plant species, insects, and birds from above. While I didn't see the Florida panther here, which is to be expected, the Merlin app did detect around 20 different bird species just in that 1 mile loop. So definitely a lot of nature when you come to this park. This was my last stop in beautiful Collier County, and my original plan is actually still pretty well intact, which is rare for me, as I'm making a big loop back around on Interstate 75. From here, I have nearly a 2-hour drive across the Everglades, back towards the Atlantic coast to Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County is the absolute pinnacle in Florida when it comes to size, as it covers almost 2,000 square miles of land area, making it the second largest land area county in the state, just behind Collier. About 1.5 million people live within this area, which is the third most populated county in the entire state, just behind Broward and Miami-Dade to the south. I've had a couple previous trips within the county before, visiting the city of Jupiter on 2 separate occasions. The city is known for its bright blue waters that surround the beautiful red Jupiter Lighthouse. Today, I'm headed to another state park, which is my 124th in the country and my 34th in Florida. I'm here at John D. MacArthur Beach State Park, just north of West Palm Beach, and clearly I'm kayaking. Got a bird over there showing off for us. And that's what I'm going to do in this state park. I'm trying to head over to Munyon Island. You gotta go under Florida State Route A1A, which is the iconic state route that takes you along the coast in Florida. And it's perfect weather out here. It's just under 80. I got sunburned yesterday, so I'm wearing a hoodie to protect from that. I didn't feel like putting on sunscreen. and hopefully this is a nice peaceful adventure. I've already seen some herons, seen a couple ducks over by the mangroves, but I wasn't able to get close enough because the water is pretty shallow over here in the bay, which is good to an extent. It's easy to be able to navigate whenever I need to with my foot or something like that. Hopefully on the other side here we'll see how deep it gets. John D. MacArthur State Park covers 438 acres both underwater and on land. That includes an estuary, a boardwalk that takes you over to it, to a beach, along with a few islands, including the biggest, Munyon Island. I just made it to the eastern tip of Munyon Island. It was about an hour paddle. That did include some pictures and a slight detour. I almost went over to the western side of the island where there's a boat dock and there's a hiking trail. The hiking trail, I think it's like a mile long, but I did read that you will run into a lot of cobwebs because it's not traveled a lot. I personally didn't want to deal with that. I just want to have a peaceful sit at the beach, and that's what you get over here on the eastern tip. You get amazing front row seat view to Rivera Beach, and then if you look just slightly south out in the distance, you can see West Palm Beach and Palm Beach. So you couldn't ask for a better view on this island. This adventure was a great full day activity for me and led me right up to golden hour at West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach sits on the mainland, while Palm Beach sits on a barrier island right across the Royal Park Bridge. West Palm Beach is the county seat and largest city in Palm Beach County, with over 100,000 people calling it home. I spent the evening getting sunset and night shots of the skyline. Today I am back where I started my Florida trip here in Martin County. Now, while this county is not as populated as its southern neighbors, it does have several state parks dotted throughout the county. And today we start our adventure at Sea Branch Preserve State Park. The state park sits directly south of the town of Stewart in the northern reaches of Martin County. This is my 125th state park in the United States and my 35th in Florida. The state park is just full of life with so many plants and bird species flying around and singing. Now, you definitely have the opportunity to see the endemic Florida scrub jay in this park. With all this low scrub, this is an ideal environment for them. Haven't seen one yet, but I have seen a ton of blue jays. The hardest thing that you can get a picture of, and it's no debate for me, is a bird that's in a tree full of leaves that will not stop moving. I had a tree literally full of birds. None of them would sit still. These are the best pictures that I got of these birds that just would not sit still. Birding is super hard. For people that do it full time, constantly, and got like 6,000-7,000 different bird species that they have found, props to you. It's a challenge for sure. After getting stressed out and trying to get some bird pictures, I think it's time for some breakfast, and I think I deserve it. After going for a morning stroll, I made my way over to Walmart for some breakfast, which will be yogurt and a refuel and some water before heading over to another state park, which is right beside Sea Branch Preserve. St. Lucie Inlet Preserve State Park will be the last state park I visit this trip, which gets my final tally at 36 in Florida and 126 in the country. This 928-acre state park protects the northern tip of Jupiter Island and is only accessible by boat or by a very long and unrealistic walk from the south of Jupiter Island. So for me, this calls for the last time I take my kayak out on this trip for another day out on the water. Got the kayak ready. The water's a bit rough, so might not be making a talking head or any kind of video until I'm landed over on the island, but I'm excited. Let's go. Water is for sure rough. I'm literally trying to go that way. It's just not letting me. So we're gonna have to go down at the north end of the island and cut through the mangrove trail. Once you get across the channel and start making it to either the north end or the south end of the island where you can get into one of these mangrove trails, it's actually pretty calm. I can put my feet right down here, right on the bottom. So you just gotta get that challenge across. Not only is the water moving quick, but you're also getting constant boats going back and forth, which can be a pain as well. And if you're not careful, you'll flip your kayak, but it's actually pretty fun. This has turned into a hiking in the water trip. Starting to get a little deeper down the trail, so hopefully we're good. I finally made it to the south end of the kayak trail and the south end of the state park, which is ironically the north end of Jupiter Island. The kayaking was a bit rough. I had constant wind towards me and constant waves pushing towards me, so I had to fight both of those things. But after a long, adventurous kayak of also having to walk in some spots because it was shallow, the tide has went out, finally made it here. I can hear the waves crashing, and I'm super excited to see what's on the other side of these mangroves. In a state that pure wilderness and isolation is becoming more and more rare, this sliver of Barrier Island is a breath of fresh air with its secludedness. Because of this, the beach is full of shorebirds who spend their days eating or messing with each other, and it's just nice to know that they can have a consistent habitat here, and it's just a true win for preservation. I walked all the way across the island, through the beach, through old wooden boardwalks, in my bare feet. I knew I was going to regret not bringing my sandals just for a picture with the sign. I always try to get a picture with these signs to show that I've been at these state parks. Was it worth it? I don't know. I got like 5 splinters in my foot and I just got one right there. Super windy, but it was probably worth it. I hope so. Well, after leaving the kayak unattended for like an hour, it survived. No one took it. Good news. It's important to note that with this park, I've only seen 2 other people. They were kayaking. As I was walking down the beach, it looked like a family came in, probably from the boating dock. But outside of that, with the isolation and also being here during the week, you can be here majority of the time by yourself. And even if there is some people here, the beach is super long. There's spots on the kayak trail that are very secluded and quiet, so really good place to get away from everything. It is muddy at this little spot where you can drop your kayak off at. Good thing you have water everywhere to clean yourself off, but not a fan of this, and it stinks. While I did think this was going to be a simple kayak over to the island and hang out at the beach for a bit, it ended up being a 5-hour journey that was spent mostly paddling, but it was definitely worth it, and I would totally do it over again, even if I knew this was going to happen. Since this took me nearly up to golden hour, I headed straight over to Ross Whitman Beach, which is home to some really cool limestone rocks like Blowing Rocks Preserve. Only difference here is they are much larger. Also this time I'm catching the beach right at high tide along with sunset, which made for incredible shots of my last dramatic evening in the state. This night ended up being a total lunar eclipse, so I stayed up until 3 in the morning for totality and got this incredible shot. On my final morning in southern Florida, I went back down into Palm Beach County for my last destination of the trip with Arthur R. Marshall Lockahashie National Wildlife Refuge, which gives me my 15th in the country and my 7th in Florida. I did the short half-mile cypress swamp and marsh loop trail, which gets you fully immersed in the greenery of Florida, and I even had a Carolina wren sing to me for a pretty long time. And just like that, my long trip to Florida came to an end. That was one of the most detailed trips I've ever taken in the state, and I usually visit once or twice a year. To recap, I visited 4 new national wildlife refuges, 1 new national preserve, and 7 new state parks. Also, in terms of species, I found 23 new birds, 16 insects, 99 plants, 6 reptiles, 4 fish, 2 mollusks, along with 1 mammal, 1 fungi, and 1 arachnid, and a mangrove tree crab along with the Portuguese man-o-worm. If you ask me, that's a well-accomplished trip full of memories and a deeper connection with God, which are the most important things to me. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to see more content like this, and until next time, have a good one.